Hey everyone, Bill Lethman here with Money Evolution. In my last video, I was talking about the 5 steps to planning out your retirement. And just to recap those really quickly, we talked about creating your retirement vision and getting really crystal clear on what you actually want your retirement life to look like. We talked about putting together your retirement map and getting together, organizing all of your different financial resources. We talked about figuring out where you are on the map. Are you on the right track, or what are some of the things that you can do to change that? We talked about optimization and how important that is to actually getting you to where you might want to be for your retirement. And then 5, we talked about some of the big decisions like when to collect Social Security, how to plan out income, maybe what to do with the pension plan. So in this video, we're going to be getting into a little bit more detail here, talking about your retirement map and some things that I think you should be able to think about when doing that. So real quick, this video is part of an entire series that we're doing to launch our upcoming retirement planning course called the Retirement Time Machine. In fact, if you want to learn more about what the Retirement Time Machine is all about, you can go to retirementtimemachine.com. There's a great introductory video there on the page if you want to learn more about what our course is all about. So with that, let's jump right into today's topic. So creating your map, like I said, is probably one of the most important parts of putting together your entire financial plan. And I've approached this from a whole bunch of different angles here over the years. It's something that we get very involved with when we're doing our one-on-one financial planning. And it's something obviously that we do a lot with the course and really helping you step by step to map all of this out and figure out what all those different components are. Sometimes I've actually referred to this as a timeline. And I like that analogy here because if you think about your financial life and the different phases that maybe you've already gone through, maybe some of the upcoming phases that you're yet to go through, there's a lot of different dynamics that tend to change for most people as they go through different stages. If you just kind of think about it, maybe when you first entered into the workforce, maybe after college, or you started to save some money for the first time, maybe you're trying to get that emergency fund going. You were saving money for a down payment on your house. Then you started maybe saving money for retirement. And over the years, you probably started to accumulate this. And a lot of times, some of that starts to become a little bit of just a collection of things. You've got a lot of things, maybe a 401k from an old employer over here. You've got an IRA account. So again, part of that process of putting together your map is to really help you get some of that stuff organized. And if you think about it, your income and expenses have probably changed a lot over those years as well. And if you think about maybe just some of the stages that maybe you've been through or maybe you're in right now, we'll start maybe, let's say somebody that's still a ways away from their retirement, and maybe you're still paying off a mortgage, maybe you still have kids at home. And if you think about it, those, having a mortgage obviously is going to cost some money. Having kids is going to cost some money, especially if you're running them around. You got soccer practice and school uniforms and all the different things that I know we've paid for with our kids and stuff. Maybe you still have some kids' college that you're planning to help them out with. So you want to, kind of look at that. And what we help to do actually within the Retirement Time Machine course is really help you to create a cash flow map or timeline of different phases that you might be in. So you might be in the now phase, okay? And so right now you've got a certain level of expenses, and we're going to help you to walk through that and figure out what those expenses are. It's something you can actually do on your own if you want, and just kind of look at, what are those monthly budget items, the utilities, the property taxes, the insurances, the mortgage payments, the car payments, and all of that. What are those expenses for kids? But obviously kids, if you kind of think about the long term, let's say this is your retirement over here, you're probably not going to have at least not for the rest of your life, hopefully, the expenses for your kids. Eventually, sometimes those kids' expenses are going to maybe only go for a certain period of time, and then those are going to stop. So one of the things I think that's very important as you kind of go through this exercise and that is to really figure out how that cash flow is going to change. And so you might, be in a spot right now, maybe you're contributing money to your 401k, but with that, maybe there's just not a lot of extra stuff we find for a lot of people. But as maybe your mortgage gets paid off and the kids' expenses, let's say this is, we'll call this pre-retirement here, that cash flow opens up, and now maybe if you're not already, you're able to max out your 401k plan if that's something that you need to do, or maybe you're even able to save a little bit extra in those last maybe 3 to 5 years or so before retirement. And so understanding that and understanding what to do with that or what you should do with that, I think is very important. I mentioned a couple of things here. You can max out your 401k, you can save more money, and that's of course what most financial people would probably tell you to do. But again, if we've created the map to understanding are you on the right track for your retirement, it might be the case, well, that extra cash flow, yes, maybe you should save a little bit of that, but if you're on track for your retirement goals, maybe that means that you can start to enjoy some of that money. And even though you're still working and everything, use that vacation time to take some of the big trips. If you want to go to Europe or you want to go to the Caribbean or whatever that may be for what you're interested in, you can start to plan that out and start to have that a little bit more, kind of freedom to do some of those things. So again, this is something that we go into a lot of detail in the Retirement Time Machine course, and we've got some worksheets to, again, walk you through step by step. But honestly, this is really something that you can do just pulling out a couple of legal pads and a pen, and really kind of sit down and start mapping this out and say, yeah, hey, in 3 years, we'll be done paying for soccer, probably at that time. Or we're going to be finishing our mortgage at a certain time, or the car's going to be paid off. And then, again, it'll help to kind of figure out what you might need to do for getting on track with some of these things, but then say, hey, maybe we don't rush out and buy a new car. Maybe we kind of enjoy a couple of years with no car payment, and that would allow us to do some of these other things. Again, kind of going back to that vision, what's most important to you? Is most important to, have a brand new car, or to maybe have some of that extra money that you could take an extra trip, or if your retirement planning needs it, maybe be able to put some money away inside of a 401k plan. So you're going to go through a lot of different phases here. Most people do. Again, early on, you've got maybe a much smaller amount of that excess cash flow there, as you're maybe building up, hopefully, your income. Some of those expenses may be a little bit greater. And then as most people get closer to retirement, at least some of the other kind of everyday expenses maybe goes down because you're paying off that debt, the kids move out of the house and things like that. And then we go through, what are those best things that we can do right now in that pre-retirement phase? What do we need to do there? And then if we kind of go into that kind of final phase, which is going to be in retirement, we're also likely to have a few phases there as well. And I think for most people, you might have an early retirement phase. You might have what we call full retirement age, and then we might have a kind of a later years. And so as you're planning this, you might have obviously some differences in income and some also differences in expenses, especially if you're planning to retire, let's say in your 50s, maybe late 50s or even early 60s, you may be retiring without a pension. Maybe you have a pension that's not going to kick in until you're 65. You get a pension, for example. Your Social Security isn't even eligible until 62, but you can take that anywhere between 62 and age 70. So again, those early years might be low income. And then depending on what you want to do, especially if you say, hey, we're going to really retire and we're going to spend a lot of money on travel and everything, you might have higher expenses. So that's going to take some extra planning that I think you're going to want to do, or at least know how that's going to kind of fit into the overall retirement plans and what is the drawdown from the portfolio going to be. And we find this, I would say, 90% or more of our financial plans, we see a situation where there's going to be some bigger gaps in those early years here. But it's very important to understand what those gaps are so you can properly plan for those. And then as we get into your full retirement, then we're going to have some income usually flowing in. I think for most people, at least, you'll have Social Security coming in. One thing I didn't mention was health care. That's a big one there. And especially if you retire before Medicare, your health care costs are likely to be higher in those early years. But at 65, as it stands right now, you're eligible for Medicare. So that might bring down some of those expenses there. And now your gaps get a little bit smaller here. And that's a good thing. But hopefully you're still healthy and you're still pretty active and everything. So that's kind of that middle phase right there. And then the later years, you'll probably still have a lot of that income hopefully coming in. But then people tend to slow down a little bit. And no matter I think how healthy you are and how active, I think it's just natural that we play maybe a little less golf. We go on a little less frequent vacations or whatever that may be. So maybe those are going to be some lower expenses there. Sometimes there's healthcare expenses depending on what your health situation is, but healthcare could possibly go up as you get older as well. But again, this is giving you a little bit of an idea of what that map looks like. And having that map is really going to lead into a lot of those other things we talked about in terms of optimization of your overall retirement plan and really kind of getting some of those big decisions made as well. It's going to help you to figure out how much money you might need to take out of your portfolio every year because again, that number is likely going to change as those different moving pieces are changing as well, you know, as you're going through early and full retirement in your later years. And again, that's something that, you know, we've mapped that out in terms of the worksheets that we have in the Retirement Time Machine so that it can walk you through kind of step by step of what those different moving pieces are essentially. So anyway, I hope that's some good information here. We're trying to make these videos educational for you so that you can walk away with some great information, whether or not you do decide to participate in the course or even some of the live training, but you should participate in the live training. Those are going to be great as well. But anyway, if you want to learn more about the Retirement Time Machine, go over to retirementtimemachine.com and check out that video. And if you want, you can enter your email address. You'll be one of the first people to know when our course actually goes live. And stay tuned. We got more videos coming, and we'll see you back in our next video. Thanks.